my name is Natalia, and I'm an agile coach at Brazil. I work for PagSeguro, that in English would be something like PaySafe. It's a company, a financial technology company that gives financial payment services mostly. And this company had grew from 100 people to 1,000 people in the last 4 years. It just opened an IPO in New York, so it's a company that's growing. And today, I'm going to talk how Kanban helped us with our portfolio management throughout this journey that we call our agile journey. I know that we already have a portfolio talk, but I'm going to talk about our case too. So, basically, this is our portfolio process, and it's based on the Spotify portfolio lifecycle. We wanted to go from the ideation, so understanding what we need to do and which would be the return of these ideas. So we started with think, and the presentation of the ideas and proposals are done using a lean canvas. This lean canvas is selected, and then it's selected by the product owners to be built and tested, because we used to work with projects, but we are in a journey to transform everything in products, and so that's how we are working now. And after the piloting, testing, and metrics, that's also followed by our portfolio, the product owners and the teams. Everything is followed until stabilization, okay, some continuous improvement, and then it's considered completed in the portfolio level. But some products will still be in the company, but we won't follow in this portfolio. And how did we start with Kanban with this process? It's very interesting, and when I got to this company, I thought it was crazy how they start with a PowerPoint. So of all the tools they could use for portfolio management, they chose to start where they were, start where you are now. And it didn't require a lot of money investment in this tool, but of course, we had a great work from our portfolio team, because every initiative was created as a card in this PowerPoint, and the movements were simulated by animations. So every week, all week, they would go to the product owners and see how the initiatives were going, and they would update this in the PowerPoint. The idea was to bring visibility to all the organization, all the areas, and also this helped them talk about some prioritization, as you see there, talk about the value of these initiatives that were prioritized, also about the risks and the cost of delay, because everything was documented in the lean canvas and then was talked in these weekly meetings, and these initiatives would walk through the portfolio. So simple as that, as it may seem, this helped the areas and all the organizations start talking aligned to the strategy. And the idea was to reduce the uncertainty of all the initiatives, starting from the first step in thinking idea and until we get this to the development. But of course, this needs to be supported by metrics. So all the cards movements you see in the PowerPoint was done in an Excel spreadsheet. And so today, besides the product metrics, we also have the process metrics from our portfolio as lead time, cycle time, process efficiency, and things like that, that the agile coaches from the organization use to help the teams improve. And for next steps, for following steps, we are moving to Swift Kanban. So we have people from Swift Kanban here at the company. We are moving there to continue scale the company and also continue to give focus to align your initiatives to our strategy with the using of horizons of investment. And also we are using OKRs today in the company. So I want to thank for the opportunity to present this. I hope this can help us see that Kanban can help us with the system thinking to spread agility to the organization. Thank you very much.
So I'm going to talk about Kanban. Specifically, what on earth is it? And I started with Kanban, I guess in 2012, around that sort of time. And for a long time, I was just working out what on earth this method is. I mean, I knew about the practices of Kanban. I knew about the change principles. I even knew what a Kanban system was and what it was for. You know, you don't start work until a customer wants it and you can actually finish it. But it didn't answer what it was. And I'm pleased to see Rodrigo here this week because he actually gave me this phrase through a talk he'd given, I think, 4 or 5 years before. The lean flow paradigm helped me see that Kanban is actually a way of seeing. It's not a process or a recipe, but actually a lens by which you can look at work. Work is flow. You can look at the workflow. Workflow is a series of knowledge discovery steps. You can look at knowledge work, and knowledge work is a service. And you can look at organizations, because organizations are a network of services. Now, David Anderson blogged about this a few years ago, and we've been working on more recently on some words for it. So work as flow, specifically see work as a flow from customer need to needs met. And that's a radical way of looking at work, because usually we walk into an office and we say, this is work. There's all these people and they're all busy. And we don't quite know what's on their screen and what they're doing, but we can see they're all busy. Actually, we need to look at work as a flow of value. These granular pieces of valuable things, valuable from the customer's point of view, that flow regularly through the system. And that means that they are granular, yes, but they're small enough, and each one of them are parcels of value from a customer's point of view. And it flows, and workflow is the second part of the lens. See workflow as a sequence of knowledge discovery steps. Now, that's not often how we look at it. We often look at workflow as who hands over this piece of work to another person or another role, and they do a bit more work. Actually, see workflow as a sequence of activities where knowledge is gathered into this item from at this end, options and ideas, and to this end, actually delivered value. So in each of those activities, there's a growth of knowledge through what people are doing, different people in different roles, and we see knowledge growing until we have enough to deliver this work package to a customer that's waiting for it and wanting it. So the third part of the lens is to see knowledge work as a service. You can say this is obvious, because accountants call it services and tax people call it services. We know we're involved in services, but actually it's something different, because rather than managing the work, we are managing, rather than managing the workers, this works better on my font, we're managing the work. We're managing the work. We're focusing on the work. Rather than keeping people busy at what they're good at and what their skill is, we're looking at, is this work flowing to customers? Now, a service implies that there is a customer there. That's sort of key part of seeing knowledge work as a service. Changing people's view about why they come to work as being in order to give value to my customers. Now, sometimes the customer's internal, and that's okay. In fact, it's absolutely inevitable because we work in large organizations. But we still need to see that flowing value to a customer at the end of the day. So the fourth and final part of the lens, we see organizations as networks of services. Now, if you look at a Kanban board like this, you can see different kinds of ways in which networks work. The first one is that there are sequences of services. There are services that start at the left-hand side and they move to the right. There's also hierarchies where big items like epics get broken down into smaller items like stories, and there's a hierarchy of services between who's managing the epics and who's managing the services. And finally, there are networks, those pink stickers on boards where they represent work on somebody else's work. It's a dependency on another service. So we need the cadences in Kanban to help us manage these independent services, and particularly this meeting, the operations review, where those services come together. So if we look at an org chart, it doesn't really show us services, and this is one of our problems of getting this part of the lens across. We've got to look through the Kanban lens, and that will help us see work as flow from customer needs to needs met, to see workflow as a sequence of knowledge discovery steps, to see knowledge work as a service, and finally to see our organizations as these networks of services. And that is the Kanban lens. Hope in 5 minutes. Thank you.
All right, I think we've got something on the screen. Let's hope this works. Jump plots. They're a new chart type that I'm trying to see what we can do. Now, my problem with Kanban and the charts that we currently produce is we have charts, scatter plots, which show the final point that a card, how long it took to complete. And we have cumulative flow diagrams, which sort of show in aggregate the journey that cards have taken through a system in different states. But we don't have anything which tells the story of any individual one item compared to all the others, the route it took to get to complete. So some fellows come up with a concept of jump plots, which they were using for managing, understanding the flow of trains, freight trains. And they decided that what they would do is they would have a series of dots, which are each sort of state that the trains went through, and a jump, which shows the cycle time of how long a train spent in each of those points. And it wasn't lost on them that this might be useful for software. One of their examples sort of had all the different states of software testing. Going forward in a process or a loop above, and going backwards in a process is a loop underneath. So I thought I would try and build you a little generator so that we could build these just for our sort of work. This is a bit hard to see. I know this projector is losing the light grays. It can't do contrast very well. But the idea is that each of our states in our Kanban system is represented by a point, a node on the axis, and the height of the loop is cycle time. And you get to see in the background all of the other cards which have been through the process. So I've put a spreadsheet out there, and I'll give you the link at the end. You can download it. You just put the dates that cards have entered into different points, different states in your process, and it goes and produces one of these for you, where every card actually has its own sort of loops and journey. You've got a legend up the top. The idea is that you can compare every card to its average. So you'll see average is an orange hoop. If you're above that, the card took longer than average. If you're underneath it, the card took less than average. But mainly what we can do is we can start finding these outliers and understanding that this one took a very different route than all of the others. And why was that? Well, it sort of skipped all the review phases. Probably was a production defect where it was cheaper to get it deployed than it was to just sit on it and do review. Get it tested in prod. That's always best practice. The other thing that I want people to try and do is think about different types of work should have different journeys and cycle times. So help compare apples versus apples, and don't start comparing different pieces of work against different types of work where we would expect them to take a different journey in the cycle time. So that's jump plots. Basically, you can download it now. If you happen to be running Excel on a PC with macros, you put in your dates and hit the generate button, and it will just generate one of those charts for you in your browser to work with. I really only did it and finished it this morning, so best of luck. I'll be leaving straight after.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I don't know if you all remember me doing a lightning talk last time. I did it with a story. This time I'm going to do it with a video. Can we click on it? Just click on this.
Is there sound or?
Yes, it is.
Hold on.
Here, I thought you were downstairs boxing chocolate. Oh, they kicked me out of there fast. Why? I kept pinching them to see what kind they were. The fourth department I'd been in. Oh, I didn't do so well either. No.
All right, girls. Now, this is your last chance. If one piece of candy gets past you and into the packing room unwrapped, You're fired.
Yes, ma'am.
Let her roll!
So this is easier. Yeah, we can handle this, okay? Listen, Ethel, I think this... I think we're fighting a losing game. Here she comes.
Fine, you're doing splendidly. Speed it up a little!
Okay. I have been doing this every class, every session, every coaching session, every training session. This is the first thing I play. For over 7 years, I have been doing this. Guess how many times I would have watched this? It's still funny. Every time I watch this, it's still funny. It is an amazing movie. Because of this, whatever I watched, recently I watched Big Bang Theory, I still connect that with Kanban. I have static, like I said, like I am static. So whatever I do, I just think about Kanban, right? So any movie, I can't enjoy movies nowadays without thinking Kanban. That's my problem right now. So I really love this more than anything else. So this is the Kanban version of my movie which I wanted to present today. This is an amazing movie. What's wrong with this video? It's funny, for sure, 100% it's funny. What's wrong with this video? Come again? Too real, yes, yes. What's wrong in this one? What is wrong in this? That's a system problem, a process problem, some problem. What is the problem we are seeing in this video? Yes?
The metric of success.
Come again?
Metric of success.
Metric of success, okay.
So, chocolate's unwrapped in the completion room.
Okay, the finish, the done, definition of done. The value is not delivered, okay? Wait one second, yeah.
It's a push system.
It's a push system, bingo, yeah. That's what like somebody says, pull system, there's no pull system. Then it's a push, there's no pull system. How do you figure it out? It says pull system on the bottom. The slide says pull system on the bottom. So yes, it's supposed to be push system. Yes, it is a push system. Yes, you were saying something? Yeah.
I was just saying push versus pull.
Yes, push versus pull. What else? Is that the only problem? I named it as pull system, but what is the other problem? There's tons of problems in there. Like
Work in progress.
too much whip, yes. Too much whip connecting to,
Unable to handle constraints.
okay. Too much demand. Too much demand. What else? Yes.
No goal, regardless of how small, can be achieved without adequate training.
Training, it's a different component. Yes, obviously. Yes, that's the first day.
Not know how to do their job.
You're right. That's their first day. According, if you have watched that episode, that's their first day of work. Okay. How about the manager? How about the manager? Speed it up. Why did she say that? Why did she say that? Speed it up.
She met her KPI.
Yes. What was the metrics? When she came in, the real metrics is seeing the flow, right? What was the flow? It was good. Everything was going good. So what is happening over there? What is happening? The real time. It's too real, right? What is the real time over there? The project is green. We don't project, it's red. Sweeping it under the rug, right? Project is green. That's what we explain. Like we don't mention it is red, right? So did they meet the expectation?
Yes.
Bingo. What did the manager say? No chocolate, no unwrapped chocolate should go into the next session. Did they go? No, everything was fine. Nothing went without wrapping, right? But it was not going, right? The problem is like we don't have the system, so I just wrap it up with that. Kanban, this is what I start with my speech. Like Kanban is about balancing demand and capability, optimizing the flow by setting up the WIP limit, minimizing the WIP limit maybe. So optimizing the flow, minimizing the WIP limit for delivering the maximum output. This entire thing based on this video is Kanban. So thank you guys.
It's easy. Good afternoon. I'm David Hughes, and this is about money well spent. I coined the term accepted value costing about 2 years ago to represent a lean agile extension of activity-based costing, otherwise known as ABC. It's a field-tested enabler for decision-making using the fixed time, fixed cost paradigm. Send me an email, and I'll send you the link to the annotated bibliography. My Gmail is my first name and my zip code. You'll see it again at the end of this slide deck. Cost pools and proportional allocation are the building blocks. It's simple. It works. I proved it at 2 large companies, one a commercial mortgage banking company, another a very large insurance company. I did it over 2 years. And this is the first of 2 key learning objectives in the slide deck. So ABC is empirical, it's agile, and it's lean. What it is not is project-based costing or timesheet accounting. And that's a really good thing. Now, the cost lens for accepted value costing is indirect labor. Nothing else moves the needle. Direct costs, direct materials, unallocated value chain costs, they don't matter. What matters in knowledge work is indirect labor costs. So, don't boil the ocean. Focus on this, and you'll get 80% of your value. So back in 2015, I needed to know the cost of delivered value. And I was sort of frustrated by the inability of traditional cost accounting methods to give me that decision-making power. What bothered me the most is that I had a feeling that the solution was right in front of me, but I couldn't really see it, and that just kept me up at night. So the first thing that most people think of is, hey, change the traditional cost management. This is a no-win battle. It's like a phalanx of really tough guys with very pointy spears. So we need another way to do this. What I'm going to do now is walk you through what ABC, or accepted value costing, really does in terms of tools, techniques, and results. The secret is cost pools. So bear with me on this. We'll spend about a half a minute on it. What matters most is that you take a look at a team as a resource group. It doesn't matter what relative sizing or relative capacity proportion mechanism they use, because you're going to normalize that within the team itself using proportional allocation based on that relative sizing or relative capacity. If you look at each team as some sort of national currency, you'll see you don't have to translate it all to a common dollar number. It's Team X-Ray has one scale, Team Yankee has another, Team Zulu has yet another. But when it all boils down to is within each cost resource, 10% is 10%. So 10 cents, 10 pesos a real. They're all the same. And you apply the fixed time, fixed cost paradigm through that, you end up with a fully normalized cost model for accepted value. This is a real result. What we're looking at here is essentially Scrum story points, but the same thing works in Kanban with features or classes of service. The top part is the proportional allocation over a fixed time period. The bottom right-hand side is the aggregation to the right level of decision-making, which is either features or classes of service. This is the second key learning objective. So we've talked about how tools and techniques work in accepted value costing. If you've got an ALM, it makes it easier. You can pull the data out. But the decision-making is what really matters. So let's take a look at the key elements. You rank the value, and then you proportionally allocate the accepted work item costs. First item, we want to know relative cost and value. And obviously, if you've got low value items and a high cost, this is something you want to stop doing. What we end up with is a picture that looks like this. The natural question when we proved that this worked with a few teams was, does it scale? And the answer is, it scales beautifully, right up to the portfolio level. And all you need to do is reconcile with the budgets and allocate the cost out team by team, doesn't matter what program. The bottom line is, I hope you liked it. If you'd like more information, this is a deep research project I'm presenting at 2 other conferences this year. Write to me at david19341@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks.
Awesome. So I'm going to talk about a story of a DevOps implementation that I did with a Minnesota-based manufacturing plant. And the idea was to take learnings from lean manufacturing and apply it to knowledge work. So this is a case study, pictorial case study. So you're looking at a seal out of a plant manager here. And she knows a lot about lean and stuff around that. So here is an example of lean house. The left side you can see 2 lean houses. There's a daily view, there is a weekly view, and what you are seeing is the aspects of lean house and the quantification of data there. You are seeing something called accountability board, the plant manager, supervisors, and what do they do? What are they transparently saying they will do in that month? Just an example. Who doesn't know about this? Continuous improvement Kanban boards at the cell level within the plant. And this is an example of a Kanban card that has some work in progress products attached to it as they go from one cell to other or from one workstation to another within the same cell. This is an example of how do you have a aggregator cell where all subproducts come and aggregate so that the logistics can take over. And then we talk about some lean concepts and how they're applied in plants, and so there are some more examples. So all in all, there are these 10 pictures of variety of aspects of lean in a typical manufacturing plant. So now we'll see how this can be done in knowledge work. And this is my perspective. Yours could be different. So summary of various artifacts within one cell. This at that time was the most advanced cell within that plant. So the idea was to develop plant automation software and refine it over a period of decades as technology platforms changed from COBOL to FoxPro to AWS Stack over a period of, I think, 60, 70 years in an extremely old CIO organization. So first thing first, we started with portfolio Kanban. We just had a superb lecture by a video by a presentation by this person from Brazil. So we started with portfolio Kanban, upstream Kanban, whatever is the latest term now, enterprise Kanban perhaps. But we focused on doing simulation. When it comes to plant automation, workflow automation software, you cannot ignore simulation. So without simulations, you cannot come up with story maps or feature maps or persona maps that can drive a lot of your feature intake decisions thereafter. And then in terms of execution, you need to have Kaizen events, like this is a lean coffee event. Back then we called it Agile Cafe. It's based on a game called World Cafe. If you go through gamification history, And then this is example of a plan, do, check, act Kanban board showing simple things identified from the Lean Coffee event as improvement plans and going through the improvements. So the slide is not that clear here, the monitor is unfortunately, but you can see big room planning, portfolio Kanban board here, very lightweight definition of done, and few things that managers can do in the modern world, like very lightweight obstacle escalation, impediment management process. So you are seeing a lot of things here in terms of how the workings and learnings from manufacturing plants can be applied to the knowledge work. But my biggest point is there's no top down or bottoms up or inside out approach. It's everything. Thank you.